Okay, so we did a chat video, the most recent one, and a lot of people in the comment section were asking about your days in the Amish because we talked about it briefly then. And although me and you have talked about it quite a lot just in conversation, I wanted to do a quick video just you talking about your time there because firstly it's fascinating and also it's just kind of a rare thing these days.
I feel a little shy talking about myself on camera because I feel like you're the one that people are interested in because you've been making videos. It's been so long since I've added value that I feel shy talking about myself.
Okay, so we've talked about this before, and I always say that when you look back at the videos that you were making when we were doing 3 videos a week, which is, we did that for a long time, which is quite a lot of videos. If you look at the views there, almost everybody knows who you are in this community because you have hundreds of thousands of views on multiple videos. I think that the only reason that the subscriber amount goes up while I'm on the channel is because I actually say at the beginning of videos, at the end of videos, awkwardly in the middle of videos, please subscribe. So I'm much more, what's the word, bullish and willing to guilt people into subscribing. So, you know, if people, yeah, the views could be pretty similar, but you know, that's a, you know, feel free to debate that.
Well, I mean, I disagree. I feel like you add value to the community a lot. It's been a long time since I have. But I mean, I'm happy to make this video. Hopefully people will find it interesting.
Well, I find it very interesting because let me just jump back to when we first started talking, because for quite a while we talked, maybe like, I'm going to say maybe 2 months, maybe that's too long, but then you briefly threw it in conversation. I was like, oh, hang on a minute, Amish? I know what that is kind of, but what does that mean? And you said that you actually, for a time after leaving the Amish, you would kind of be wondering at what point in the conversation, or what point when you knew someone, you would bring it up, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, because when we first left the Amish, because I had no cultural knowledge of the outside world. So like music and movies and current events and any kind of politics. I just didn't know anything. So people needed to know that I came from a very sheltered culture because I wasn't able to keep up on conversations. I mean, now I don't keep up on a lot of stuff because I don't watch the news, but that's more by choice. So I can get away with not telling people. Like I got away with not telling you for a long time. And you didn't think that I was like not knowledgeable, right?
Quite the opposite, actually. I was surprised by how much you knew about, when I have things in common with someone and they know more about it than me, I'm just always impressed because I feel like I'm pretty obsessive with the stuff I'm into and watch it enough that I would become pretty knowledgeable on it. So the stuff that we were interested in common, that was, yeah, surprising to me. Then to find that you kind of, I guess it's fair to say that you, when you come from the Amish, you come into modern life on the back foot to a certain extent, because you know, everyone is so imbued in technology and these things that it's second nature to them. Whereas for you have to kind of like learn the basics at a time where you should be already past the basics. So it's like starting off on the back foot. Let me just ask you in more detail though. You said obviously movies and TV and that kind of stuff. Was it the case that there was zero electricity in the Amish? Is that actually a thing, or?
Well, I mean, so there's different kinds of Amish. There's New Order Amish, there's Old Order Amish, and then there are Trooper Amish. So in the order of like the most plain Amish is the Trooper Amish. So they don't have indoor plumbing, so they have outhouses. Like they're a lot more restricted. They don't have electric lights on their buggies. They have kerosene lanterns that they hang on the side of their buggies. Whereas I was Old Order Amish, so we had indoor plumbing and we had refrigerator. Everything ran off of gas. So, and then New Order Amish, they actually have electric. So they don't have radio or TV or anything like that, but their house runs off of electricity. We were the Old Order Amish.
Okay, and I'm guessing that the New Order are named as such because they decided to update to have the electricity and things, among other things.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And is it fundamentally a religious thing, or is it possible to be Amish and not subscribe to the whatever religion the Amish people believe in? Or does it kind of like, do you have to have both at the same time?
Right.
Okay, I was always curious about that because the lifestyle itself, in some ways, seems very appealing. Like it would be nice to kind of just do like a month retreat there. I don't know if they even offer that to people from like the outside world. And when you say about
they don't.
That, I mean, if I was Amish and I was sort of higher up in the power hierarchy, I wouldn't want to be like tainting or diluting your culture by bringing other people in. But I think people would actually benefit from like retreats there, or places maybe nearby that you could go where you could meet up with them and not be fully involved. But that would be fascinating.
It's very interesting too, because sometimes there are people that want to join the Amish, and they'll join the Amish, but they are always outsiders. And because there are no outsiders, whereas, like in public school, there's people from all different cultures, all different religions. Like, you're more used to a different kind of person. Whereas if you grow up Amish and all the generations before were Amish, to have an outsider come in and think that they can just adapt to the culture and just fit in, it's not ever possible. Even if they learn the language, you don't fit in. Even like adopted children sometimes are very obviously different, which is interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it's such an extreme culture, and such a like, I don't know if monolithic is the right word, but that reminds me of something actually. Let me just jump on a tangent here. In my school that I went to, which is a secondary school, so that is high school, I think, in the US, they changed the dinner time rules. It used to be the case that everyone would go for dinner at the same time, and each year group would have their day each week where they'd go in first. So you'd walk into the dinner hall and you'd be like, let's say you're in year 7, which is the youngest year, and you'd be tiny, and there'd be people in like 6th form, which are huge, and people would be barging out of the way, and it'll be this melting pot where there's people from all different cultures and different shapes and sizes. Now they've changed it so that each year group has their own dinner time. I really dislike that idea, because it takes away one of the, at least in my mind, one of the main benefits of the education system, which is that you get to be put into this melting pot of different people. But anyway. Okay, so just one last thing on that first question. When you say about like movies and electricity, did you even know what those things looked like? Or did you see them and realize you just don't have them as a commonplace thing? Or did you not even see them until a certain age?
We knew, so my grandma and grandpa had moved to a New Order Amish community. So whenever we went to their house, they had the washer and dryer, and they had the electric lights. So I knew what electricity, I don't remember a time when I didn't know what electricity was.
Okay.
And then movies and music, I mean, we would go to Walmart to do our grocery shopping, and I don't remember finding out about, movies, or I don't remember, but I knew what they were.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes much more sense now, because it would have been so alien if you're just completely unaware of them until a certain age.
And whenever we would go to like the dentist or the doctor's office, they have TVs in the waiting room. So I knew what a TV was as well.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. That makes me feel a little bit more reassured that it wasn't like a complete culture shock. So, from what you described of it before, it seems like there's a very strong like structural routine element to the days there. I don't know if this is true or not. But did you have like a weekly schedule or daily schedule? What was that like from day to day?
The entire structure of the Amish is structured. So, I mean, that the way you can dress changes with age. So it depends what age you are, or if you get married, or the dress changes with what part of life you're in. And then everything is structured. So yeah, we had a daily structure as well. And a weekly structure. Like, we broke it down into, because we lived on a farm, and so some chores had to be done. And so, you would get up and you knew what you were doing when you got up, and then you'd get ready for school, and then you'd go to school, and then you'd come home, and everything was on a daily schedule kind of. And then also there were designated days when you did certain things. So I come from, I have 7 siblings, there's 8 kids. And so laundry is a big deal, and we didn't have a washer and dryer. So it's like a big event to do laundry. You have to, it's a big thing. So days that the laundry is done, like that takes up a big part of the day. And then on Saturday, you get ready, you clean, like we always cleaned our house. And I think this was just what everyone in the community did. On Saturdays, you clean the house, clean the buggy, iron the clothes for Sunday, and everyone takes a bath, because it's not a daily thing that Amish take baths. We took baths twice a week.
See, I think I really would fit in Amish culture. Okay, that's really interesting. When you were in the Amish, I mean, you know that the whole phrase like ignorance is bliss, and sometimes humans have a strange tendency to almost seek out situations that will cause them problems, especially psychologically in modern life. And like the more you get or the more abundant your starting point in society and the more options you have from day one, the more unhappy you can be and overwhelmed you can be. When you were in the Amish, did you ever feel like this need for more? Or was it would you describe it as a satisfying lifestyle?
I mean, I think it's just human nature to have a need for more. So one thing that the Amish do really well that I really, really like is that because that they garden and they have so many kids, they're busy all the time. And I mean, I noticed this as an adult and just watching other people. I think that busy people are happier people. So if you're busy, a very common saying in the Amish is, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And
Okay.
so we were busy. We were very, we worked really hard. So I think that that's good. But I do think that humans have a need to have trials and to have problems to overcome. So, and I mean, I think this is true of human beings anywhere. Relationships are never static. So like when you first say you start an Amish community, this actually happens quite a lot. People start an Amish community because they couldn't get along with the Amish communities that they were coming from. And then to begin with, it's very, very good and everything is perfect and everything is right and they have all the rules that they want. And so they start this community and everything is just perfect and they have the people there that are not problematic. I mean, not that many years go by before problems arise because human beings are just like that.
There's also reality TV shows that are simply based on the fact that if you put human beings in like some kind of community or confined space, that just crazy things will start happening pretty quickly. So at some point, for whatever reason, the decision was made for you and your family to leave the Amish. So what did that process look like? Was there like a day when you were leaving, or was it a very incremental thing? And like, where was like the first place you went? When were you living on your own for the first time? Because I still, even though we've talked about this many times, I'm quite vague about remembering those details about how it actually happened. Because it's like quite a big deal.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a process. My dad didn't want to be Amish when he was growing up. He always wanted to go to college. And then he had kids. He had just turned 20 when he had his first kid. And then he had like a kid every year for the next 5-6 years. And so then he had to provide for his family. So he was he didn't have options anymore. So then when I was 15, my older sister was 16, and then the kids were the two oldest in the family. So my dad at that point was 35 and 36, and he hadn't wanted to be Amish. There had been a period years before, maybe like 5 years before we decided to leave the Amish, that my dad kept getting in trouble with the church because he didn't obey all the rules just perfectly. And so he was often getting in trouble with the church. And it was just weird rules, and the Amish go by the Bible, or like their interpretation of the Bible. And so one time when dad had gotten in trouble for having a bobcat, he didn't feel like they had any right, like that he should get in trouble for that. And he was asking the preacher about it, like based on the Bible, like where is this problematic? And the preacher,
Thou shalt not bobcat.
the preacher said, it's not your job to read the Bible, that you need to listen to us. And dad told mom that you can't be Amish and read the Bible. And mom was like, well, then just don't read it. And so he had wanted to leave at that point. And then quite a few things happened when I was 15. All my siblings, I had already graduated Amish school. So I was in the year in between when I was in Romspringe. After you graduate school, I graduated in 8th grade. Amish only go to 8th grade. And so I graduated at 14, and it was a year before I was in Romspringe. So I was at home from school. My older sister was a teacher at the school, and all my younger siblings, except for the two youngest, were in school. So I was at home taking care, and my mom was sick at this time. So I was at home taking care of the kids, and I remember mom and dad were both home when they made the decision, and they were talking, and dad was like, should we just leave the Amish? So then they decided to leave the Amish, and my siblings that were in school and my older sister, who was 16 at this time and had a boyfriend, they didn't want to leave the Amish, and they talked mom and dad into letting them finish the school year. So we then knew that we were going to be leaving the Amish everyone knew that we were going to be leaving the Amish, but we were still Amish for a period of, I think the decision was made in January or February, and then school ended in, I think, May. So for a period of a couple months, we were still Amish, but we knew we were leaving. And my sister that was in, I think she was in 7th or 8th grade. She was in 7th grade. She got a camera and she just started taking pictures because, I mean, you couldn't get in trouble for stuff. Amish aren't allowed to have pictures either, so that was a big deal. But we weren't getting in trouble for stuff anymore because everyone knew we were leaving the Amish. So my sister...
I was about to ask now whether you told people or not, or whether you had to keep it a secret.
Yeah, people knew. So my sister took a camera to school and just like started documenting everything because she knew that we were leaving, and we knew that we were going to lose all of our family and all of our friends and everything. So smart move on her part to document everything.
You know, that's a very good move. I actually never wondered about that because, well, I'm assuming that, you know, hopefully we get Amy on the channel and just, you know, people can see her, because I think she's been on once before. You talked about how your role changed and how your world changed, but for her, in some ways, it's even more intense because she was kind of like the top dog, the, you know, the first child, the older sibling, the kind of, you know, a boss lady, even at that age, I imagine. Was she nervous at all about leaving? Was she like a bit, you know?
She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave, and she was very vocal about it. She didn't want to leave, and she had families in our Amish church that were like, you can stay with us. You don't have to leave. And mom and dad told her that she's only 16 and she has to leave until she's 18. If she wants to come back when she's 18, then she can do it, but she has to.
Okay, and was there a point where she actually considered going back to the Amish, or did your parents just know that when she spends X amount of years out of that she's not going to go back?
Yeah, so my sister Amy is actually, I mean, I know I've talked to you about this, so you already know, but my sister Amy is an extremely impressive person. So, she's very, very smart, and so when we left the Amish, I went to high school, and Amy took a year to get her GED. She went and taught at the middle school. She was a teacher's assistant, and the teachers there helped her get into college. And then Amy was in college, you know, when she turned 18, and she had already moved her life forward and didn't want to leave, or didn't want to go back when the time came.
It's fascinating how, like, the responsibility sometimes as a parent, that you know that a momentary, like, pain for the child is going to be paying off in the long run. Because I'm assuming at that time she probably was like, so, you know, who is ever going to deeply desire to change their entire world, especially if there's nothing wrong with the world that they're coming from, you know? So, you know.
I was actually the child that was probably the most excited about leaving the Amish. I always, even when we were Amish, I never felt like I belonged in that culture. I mean, I wasn't an outsider. I wasn't an outcast. Like, I just didn't feel like I belonged. Like, I feel like Amy and Mindy and Mark, they all fit into that culture a little bit, but I never felt like I belonged. And so when mom and dad decided to leave the Amish, I was so excited. But I ended up being the child that had the hardest time with the transition.
I didn't know you were the most excited to leave. That makes perfect sense to me, but I don't remember you telling me that. Okay, so after all that and all this time, is there anything that you miss about being in the Amish?
Well, now that I'm an adult, I've structured my life with the things that I like about the Amish in my life, which is, I think that the relationship part of the Amish culture, I really, really enjoy that. I feel like part of the reason I had such a hard time leaving is because of the relationships. So because the community is so small and so many people are your cousins, and I have so many aunts, and I was just surrounded by people that cared about me. I mean, if you have nieces or nephews or siblings or people just feel protective. And even though, like, I was a wild child and I didn't fit the stereotypical Amish person, my family found delight in me because I was one of theirs. And I love that aspect of the Amish, that you're surrounded by so many people. I feel like there's a safety to it, honestly. There is a safety to it.
That makes so much sense, especially when it's family, because it's that, you know, that just deep evolutionary bond. Okay, well, I'm very glad we did this video just because it's such an interesting thing to have in modern life, because, you know, people are being born these days not just with technology, but just you see like kids out in restaurants, like, and the parents will hand the child an iPhone. So it's such a unique thing. Like our generation or my generation, I think, is kind of a transitional generation where we didn't really have the internet growing up. You know, at our fingertips. Then we had it very soon into our like early teen years. So we got a little bit of a taste. With you, you have such a contrast in taste. Such a contrast in experience that it's kind of mind blowing actually that there is anyone in modern life that has that. Like, yeah, it's just hard to fathom in some ways.
I feel like it's definitely, I mean, noticeably, I don't know if it was the change of culture at the age I was at when I did the change of culture, but I feel like I live life which I live the Amish life very different, so maybe I just am weird, but I feel like I am.
Yeah, I feel like in any culture that you dropped you into, you'd have a little bit of a, I'm not going to say anti-authoritarian, but yeah, you're going to do what you're going to do, regardless of what the culture is saying you should do.
Okay,
so, yeah.
that's true.
That does not surprise me.
Good point. Thank you. This is fun.